It was a very cold day in 1914. The vast whiteness stretched as far as the eye could see, silent as the frozen surface of the ocean. There was no wind blowing and no waves rising. One man and his crew were about to embark on what would become one of the greatest survival stories in history. Antarctica, a land of frozen earth and glaciers, was this man's greatest dream, but it would also become his greatest test. But what happened in this white hell? Who were these men, and why did they venture to such a deadly place at the end of the world? And more interestingly, who or what was the unseen entity they claimed accompanied them on their dangerous journey? Before moving on to the video, subscribe to the channel to support me, and don't forget to like and share the video. Ernest Shackleton. He was one of the most renowned explorers of his time. Since childhood, Shackleton had been passionate about the sea and exploration, harboring a deep desire to reach Antarctica, the least explored continent on Earth. His goal was to traverse the entire continent from one end to the other. At that time, Antarctica was largely uncharted territory, and this would be Shackleton's crowning achievement. But this journey was far from ordinary. When Shackleton prepared to sail with his ship, the Endurance, he knew the dangers that awaited them. However, his belief in his leadership, his crew, and their resilience was unwavering. He carefully selected his 28-man crew and prepared them for the daunting task ahead. If everything went according to plan, they would make history by crossing Antarctica. But fate had a different plan. As the Endurance departed from dock and headed towards the frozen waters of Antarctica, the crew was filled with excitement. But from the very first day, the sea began to challenge them. As they neared Antarctica, they encountered massive ice floes. Although they had anticipated this, the ice seemed endless. As the ice thickened, the Endurance began to slow and gradually became trapped between the ice floes. Shackleton's worst nightmare was becoming a reality. The ship was now immobilized, and the morale of the crew began to wane. Shackleton remained calm and composed, doing his best to keep the men motivated. He reassured them time and time again, "We will get through this." But in reality, it was becoming increasingly clear that the ship would never escape the ice. The Endurance was now locked in the frozen sea, and this was just the beginning of their ordeal. For weeks, the Endurance remained trapped in the ice. The crew's initial excitement had slowly given way to fear and despair. As the months dragged on, food supplies began to dwindle, and the harsh weather became even more unforgiving. Eventually, the pressure of the ice against the ship intensified to the point where the Endurance began to crack. With a terrible noise, the ship was slowly crushed by the ice. Shackleton ordered the crew to abandon ship. Now, the fight for survival had begun. They were stranded in one of the coldest, most dangerous places on Earth without a ship, without technology, and with dwindling resources. Shackleton accepted the dire situation, but never lost hope. He gave frequent motivational talks to his men, trying to keep their spirits up. But with each passing day, it was becoming more difficult to survive. After the Endurance was crushed, Shackleton and his crew were forced to trek across the ice. They set up makeshift camps on the frozen surface, but the temperature dropped lower with each passing day. The threat of freezing, starvation, and disease loomed large. The only thing keeping them alive was Shackleton's leadership. Every morning, he gathered the crew and tried to keep them motivated, always searching for ways to survive. The crew survived for weeks on the ice, with dwindling food supplies and only cold tents as shelter. But Shackleton, with his extraordinary leadership, kept the team united. Offering hope was the only way to keep them alive in the face of such a catastrophe. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Shackleton had to make a decision: either wait to die or attempt the impossible to find help. Shackleton decided to take a small lifeboat, the James Caird, and embark on a perilous 1,300-kilometer journey to South Georgia Island. Shackleton and 5 of his men ventured into the world's most dangerous seas. After a difficult journey of about 2 weeks, they reached the island. However, the real difficulty was just beginning. Because they had reached the last point they could go by boat. There was a vast ice mass in front of them, and it was impossible to go any further. Shackleton told his friends that they had to walk the rest of the way and took 2 people with him. They left the other 3 people by the boat and set off. However, this is where the story becomes mysterious. Just as Shackleton and his companions were about to give up from exhaustion, an invisible being gave them strength. They forgot their fatigue and continued on their way. Shackleton later described the situation as follows: "During that long and arduous 36-hour march over the nameless mountains and glaciers of South Georgia, it often seemed to me that there were 4 of us, not 3. There was another invisible person with us, and he gave us strength. It was only because of his strength that we could continue on." This phenomenon, later dubbed the third man factor, became a curious mystery in the annals of exploration. Was it a product of extreme stress and fatigue, or something more mystical? While many scientists today attribute this sensation to a psychological survival mechanism triggered by isolation and extreme conditions, the men of Shackleton's crew believed they were not alone. Psychologists and neuroscientists have studied the third man factor experienced by Shackleton and others. According to modern research, this phenomenon occurs during moments of intense isolation and extreme danger. It's thought to be a result of the brain's attempt to protect itself, creating the illusion of a guiding or comforting presence. This can happen when the mind is under extreme stress and fear, activating survival instincts. Experts like John Geiger, who wrote a book on the subject, explain that the third man phenomenon has been reported by explorers, mountain climbers, and even astronauts. These invisible companions seem to offer guidance or comfort in life-threatening situations, helping people survive unimaginable hardships. For Shackleton and his men, the third man might have been the key to keeping their hope alive during the darkest moments. Shackleton's story is not just an exploration tale. It is a testament to human will and endurance. Though he may not have achieved his goal of crossing Antarctica, he succeeded in keeping his crew alive, despite unimaginable odds. Shackleton's determination, courage, and leadership remain a source of inspiration even today. And while science offers explanations for the third man phenomenon, some mysteries may never be fully solved. Perhaps the greatest achievement of all was never losing hope, even in the darkest moments, with help, seen or unseen.